Greetings, Goddess Body, Mind, Spirit community. This is your Goddess Guru, Tyra Omilade, and I love helping women align with their life purpose using ancient wisdom so that they confidently and courageously live the amazing lives they know they deserve. And one woman who absolutely has helped me to understand how to live confidently and courageously is my own dear sweet mother, Lily, Lily Mabel. Yeah, and her birthday is February the 28th. My mother is an ancestor. She died over 20 years ago, May 8th, 1997 is when she went back to the ancestral realm. And so one of the things I want to do is to honor my mom for her birthday. It used to be such a horrible and depressing time. So, and, sometimes for those of us who've lost our parents or significant, people in our lives, you never really know how that time around their birthday or the day that they make their transition is going to be. But um, the longer things go out for me, the longer I get away from the day that she died, it's not hard. I want to say starting around 10 years out, 10 years out. Anywho, yeah, so it's been 20 something years since my mom passed. And so this year I decided, since I have been honoring Black History Month, that I would take this time to end Black History Month with a message from her um, for her birthday, which is February the 28th, and just share what I took away from my mother's passing at such a young age. She passed at 50. And yeah, so last year when I turned 50, oh my God, I was so happy. I was so happy to make it, even though all her sisters have lived long lives, they still are alive. Thank the goddess. Um, I still was afraid, like, oh my gosh, because my mother's mother died young, and so did my great grandmother. They all died very young. So I was just so happy to make it last year and get to 50. And so now, as I go into 51 and am feeling more certain about the work that I'm going to do here online, I just want to tie my honoring my mother's birthday into this platform, especially again, since this is Black History Month and my mom segues us into Women's History Month. And so this is just a lesson that I took, and maybe I'll think of some things that my mother said to me that might help some of you all. So what came to me this morning that made me say, I've got to make this video is that when my mother died, it was such a shock to my system that I literally felt like I started my life over again. Because, prior to that time, I was 27. I had no concept of life here on earth without my mother. And so there was a part of me that always knew spiritually I was different. And all of us have something like this. There's all of us have something about us that is not acceptable. And it may not be that it's not acceptable, but it's so odd that there's no support for it. There's the bigger topics that we can think of that so many people can say, oh my gosh, I knew my whole life. For instance, there are some people that will say, I knew I was gay. But if you're raised in a family or society, the world, oh my God, that, is not supportive of being a homosexual, then yeah, like, whoa, that's major. So we all have heard of the coming out stories and just the struggles of people, our friends and our family who have gone through that. You don't think so much about people who are born into a family where maybe that person is an artist and they know their life is supposed to be art. And maybe they're discouraged. No, you're not going to be an artist. You're going to be a teacher or a doctor or something like that. Or maybe there's the ones who, you meet someone, you fall in love with them, and they are, you just have always had an attraction to somebody who's not the same ethnic group or even nationality as you. So many stories, so many stories. So I hope that you can take away from this, whatever your thing is. I think we all have it. I think we all have something about us that's just a little bit odd. And we're sitting down on it, didn't know what to do with it, because me, as someone who knew I was spiritually different, I didn't really know what to do with that. But I just knew I have to pursue this. I have to figure out, why can't I just be happy, with the religion of my childhood? Like, why can't I just be like everybody else and just be happy with going to church, right? Because that's how I was raised up. And yeah, so, no real guidance and direction. But prior to my mother's passing, I had started to um, venture off into being different and other. I'm just odd in a way. There's a part of me that can fit in no matter where I go, but there's always something about me that's just a little bit different. At that time, I was vegetarian. Like, being a vegetarian or vegan, which is a lot of people nowadays, now is nothing. Back then, it was odd. It was very odd, especially being Black from the South. Odd. And of course, back then, I don't know about now because I'm not a vegetarian anymore, but back then, a lot of times when you were hanging out in vegetarian groups, you were meeting people who were odd. They were into stuff that you hadn't really heard about, or maybe you would go to a health food store and there was always going to be maybe something about chakras or some essential oils, which I don't think essential oils are odd, but there was a time when nobody talked about essential oils, right? And these led to doing research. And all of this was happening right at the time of, the internet coming out. So of course I'm online looking for the internet. So yeah, it just started leading me down and learning new and interesting things. And part of how I got on this path too was with Queen Afua. She probably is what really set things off for me. After I graduated from college opened me up a little bit, but Spelman, they've dropped our whole School for Christ, but back then that was what Spelman was. We saw the Nation of Islam, but yeah, that didn't attract me, even though I would go to some of the talks. I'd never participated in that particular religion. But yeah, not too much until I was about 23, found Queen Afua's book, started finding Iyanla's work, Iyanla Vanzant, at about 24. And then it was when I was in graduate school and just started talking to other people who were awakening and being more conscious of, asking questions. Why do we think what we do, feel what we feel? So yeah, just slowly but surely this opening was happening, but I was a little bit resistant to it because there was so much pushback on me. It was not rampant and widespread where I was. I've just been in the South so long. And at the time I was in Tennessee. And I'm from Mississippi. So yeah, nothing. And so, I actually did try quite a few healing modalities for my mom. My mom's sickness, she had cancer, made me start really tapping into alternative healing. But of course, there just wasn't a lot. And I will say, prior to actually Queen Afua, there was this Black PA, the very first Black physician assistant I'd ever met. I don't think I'd ever met a physician assistant. And I was about 21. and felt tired and broke down. And she sent me to an herbalist. She was like, "Ain't nothing wrong with you. You just need to get some herbs. You need to get on this healthy lifestyle." And so once I went down that path, I never turned back. So I forgot about that. Yeah. That was a little bit prior to Queen Afua. But of course, Queen Afua introduced me to other like Egyptian spirituality and stuff like that. So anywho, I, did think I tried to use herbs and different things like that for my mom. It was like always this movement to something different and other. I was even on the path of going to medical school until my mom got diagnosed with cancer. And first of all, it was a doctor who, um, I don't know if it was a misdiagnosis, but he just didn't care and, told her, "Oh, you're fine," when my mother had cancer. So, fast forward, she died from it. And it just made me say, going to medical school is not for me. I'm looking for nature and just really opening to this new way of being. Even though, cutting off my hair, going natural, no more perms, just changing and being different. But there was this spiritual call for me. And I always had the question, like, what were my ancestors before they were captive and, captured and brought over via the transatlantic slave trade? And yeah, just so curious. So mama dies, and it rocked me. It that there's very little that has happened in my life that has rocked me like that, rocked my soul. And realizing how young my mother was too, 50, it's like, ooh, she had more life than some of my other friends whose moms died younger, even, her mother died younger, and her mother's mother died even younger. But still, it's like, ooh, 50, like, that's young. And my mama struggled 43 to 47. She was diagnosed at 43, died at 50. I'm sorry, from 43 to 57 years. So after she died, it made me say, if I knew I only had, well, what if mama knew she only had 7 years left to live? How differently would she have lived her life? And um, yeah, I always did wonder, because I watched my mother really struggle with, ugh, I watched my mother struggle with what she had experienced thus far. So, for instance, my mother, especially the closer she got to dying, she would pick up the phone and call people who she had fallen out with and apologize and make amends. She and my dad had a rocky marriage my whole life. Like, one of my very earliest memories is not a pleasant one of my parents. But she said the last 7 years of her life, once she got that diagnosis, she finally got the marriage that she always wanted. Um, she would do things to, like, "I'm sorry, I didn't do this well for you. So much coming to terms with her life. And when I tell you my mother was a good person, like, no one's perfect, but the majority of the people who know my mother, they will say that is one of the greatest humans who've ever walked the face of this planet. And to see her so down on herself, she fought. She didn't want to die. She could have lived to see her grandchildren. She would have made that choice. I just know it. Um, but it spoke to me. What if we only had 7 years left to live? And then when I hit 43, oh my God, It was not easy. My 40s, I'm happy for women that whose 40s are just so liberating and you're just so happy. Um, that was not my experience for 40s. And I'm not beating myself up for it. 40s made me really come to terms with how I'm not taking care of myself or how I'm selling myself out, basically, how I'm thinking about my mother and, just watching her last 7 years. Just what would I do if I knew I only had 7 years left? What would I do differently? Then I would say when I was around 27, 28, if I only knew I had 6 months left to live, what would I do differently today? If I only had a year, what different how differently would I live? And as I approach my 51st birthday, that is what has come to me. I don't know if it's my mother saying this to me or what. But I always said, and this is what helped me to finally break the grief. I grieved hard for 3 years. But what helped me to break the grief was I said, my mama had a lot of life that wasn't lived. And so I'm going to live my life fully um, for me and my mother. And I've even added on my grandmother who died in her 30s and my great grandmother who died as a teenager. I said, yeah, I got to live fully for them. I got to live fully for them. And it's so interesting because somewhere along the way, I forgot that. And I feel like I have gotten a little bit lost until recently. Um, and I remember last year when I turned 50, it was like, oh, I made it. And honestly, I've made it well. My mother had lots of health issues. She truly inspired my continued push for living a healthy lifestyle. She actually instilled that in me. My mama was the original power walker. Okay, this lady was almost 6 feet tall. I'm 5'6.5". Can you picture that? I'm 5'6.5", trying to keep up with a almost 6 foot tall power walker. Let me tell you something. My mama, she made me a very fast walker. uh, she would want to lose weight. My mama would eat those salads. Oh my gosh. Yes. She's the one who was like, breastfeed those babies. It's good for you and those babies. Breastfeed those babies. Right. So I really credit and attribute so much of my focus on health and wellness to my mom and so many choices, even staying at home. I attribute that to my mom. She always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And I was like, well, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. I want to be just like my mom. I just love my mom. I just thought she was the best. And I just thought, you know what? For whatever reason, she says this is important. And so I just want to do the same. And I'm fortunate to have a husband who is like, okay, go for it if that's what you want to do. And so, yeah, you know, I forgot though. I lost, maybe it's just being in the throes of motherhood and life in general and really feeling a call to continue to be, I'm so different, and feeling, mustering up the courage to just say, I know I live in an uber Christian place, married to a Christian pastor. His family's very, very conservative Christian, like Black folks, they for people, equality and justice for all. They ain't right wing at all. Like that's not our people or whatever. But, a lot of Black folks, Christianity, that's like what we're going to do. My side of the family, we are the heathens. Like even my mama's people are very Christian, but it's several of us on this side we heathen. I got cousins that are heathens. Me and my brothers, we basically heathens. Okay. So I give thanks for that, but really stepping into doing what I know I have been called to do, it has been a challenge. And when I turned 50 last year, I said, yeah, I made it. And now it's my turn. Because mama got to 50. The rest is on me. And so I was thinking this morning, I really don't want to be shocked into my calling and my destiny. I don't want to go through. I would prefer to make the choice to just go on ahead and live it out. And that's the message that I want to share with you all in this long rambling, that it's just me processing. But thank you if you've gotten this far. But my mother died at 50. And I just believe there's a part of me that does not doubt my mother pushes me to do what I came here to do, this mission of sharing spirituality. I'm a personal development kind of gal, health and wellness. It's just like the whole package. This is why I say goddess, body, mind, spirit, right? But not just sharing what's accepted by society, ushering in ancient spirituality. Maybe I'm to talk about it so that others will continue to carry the legacy, because it has been forgotten, and we have to remember it in order to, because what our ancestors have for us, maybe we don't need the whole lineage or legacy, but we can use it to the parts that are good that we need now. Somebody's got to usher it back in, and then somebody's got to keep it going, right? So yeah, she whispers in my ear on a regular basis, like, quit playing. Quit playing. There's no way. You got all the way to 50, all scary, thinking you might die, scared if you're gonna have similar health issues. None of that. None of that. Like, my mama would be so proud. She would just be like, girl, I, I'll give you an example. I had to go get a checkup, and the lady was like, or the nurse practitioner was like, so are you on medication? No, not one. Not even on the verge of being on medication. She was like, and you're 50? This is unheard of. I'm like, really? Of course, I hang out with people that are health crazy. So, yeah, most of me and my friends, we're not on medication. But yeah, my mama would be so proud of that. But by the same token, she's like, quit playing. If you knew that you had 6 months, Tyra, to live, what would you do differently? If you knew you had 1 year left, what would you do differently? Why run from your destiny so much that you end up, the universe, as we talk in the goddess tradition or the Orisha tradition, why wait for a Yah to show up for you to say, F it, I'm just going to do it? And so I received that reminder, Mama, and I share it with you because it's real. It's real. Let us go on ahead and just do it, right? Let us just go on ahead and do what we were called to do unapologetically, because this is what we came here to do. We have to live our mission out, right? And the ancestors, we stand on their shoulders and they cheer us on. And one thing I know is my mother, she walks with me. She's one of my chief ancestors, is what I say. Probably the number one. She's the one I talk to the most. And yeah, I just feel her saying to me, you must do this work. So, all right, 51, here I come. And I'll just do it. No matter what life deals my way, it won't be because I'm not living my destiny. Unless it's, the goodness that I will receive from living out my mission. But yeah, I will do this and do it decent and in order. She's saying don't let fear and um society hold hold you back from what we have been told we're supposed to do. Actually, it's that we will find more happiness, peace, love, and joy by just doing the damn thing. All right, Mama. Her picture's over there. So happy birthday, Lily Mabel Wade Powell. I am your daughter, Tyra, priestess of the Great Mother, the Sacred Feminine Mysteries. Going all in. Hope this is meaningful to whoever watches this. Peace.